What is going on, guys? Joey Franzel here at Flex Training Systems. And today I wanted to talk about making progress and just the things that are on the screen, because I have some lifters that they're ridiculously lean and they need to like stay lean for their weight class or for whatever reason. Maybe powerlifting isn't necessarily their first priority, which is very rare. Most of my people care about competing. But they're like super duper lean, and I just wanted to kind of talk about the different things that can help you lift more weight. Like when you're lifting more weight, what exactly is happening? Because you might not necessarily look too different or feel too different, but you can lift more weight over time, and there's a lot of different reasons for that. Some of them are going to be short-term things that you can do to help you lift more weight. Oh, I forgot to include this on there. And then some of them are going to be long-term things, like so actually like putting on more muscle, becoming neurologically efficient, and then there's maybe you had a better meal, maybe you were better rested, recovery was better, whatever. So and then I wanted to really quickly, we're going to talk about this. So there's a difference between, I mean, in my mind, like this is pretty nuanced, and I actually hate nuance, but like you can lift more weight without necessarily getting stronger because you improved your leverage, right? If you have the same, like in your mind, think about it. When you say, oh, I'm getting stronger, but you gain 20 pounds, like, did you actually get stronger? Did you actually lose, like, how are we defining get strength? You know what I mean? Is it just the ability to lift more weight regardless of everything? Or is it strictly determined by, like, putting on more muscle? Like, if you gain more muscle in your mind, is that what you consider improvement, right? I think it's a form of improvement, but I think there's a lot of different things that go into it. If you take a sumo puller that is... You take a sumo puller and you take a conventional puller. Let's say you have a tall, lanky sumo puller, and they weigh the same as a shorter conventional puller. Like, they're going to look very different, right? Like, it's very rare that you're going to get a short conventional puller that doesn't look absurdly jacked out of his mind, right? So when you look at those two people, it's like, well, they're lifting the same weight. So do they have equal strength, even though one has, like, astronomical amounts of muscle? Or... You know what I mean? It's like a lot of different things that go into it. One is technically proficient at the sumo deadlift, which allows them to do that, which means that with less muscle, they can move more weight, and they maybe they have long arms, better leverage, whatever. So let's kind of talk about that a little bit. So one of the first ways, obvious ways of like actually lifting more weight is going to be to just gain muscle. If you have, like, I know some guys that, like, for example, they lay down on the bench and they bench like... Basically, they just like, if you're laying on the bench and you move your arms straight up, that's their grip, right? So they bench super, super close grip. Obviously, this is terrible for like gaining mechanical advantage, but they're able to lift like 500 pounds, right? They can bench 500 pounds. They can bench more than a lot of their peers. Why is that? Well, maybe they have really crazy developed triceps. They have super strong pecs, and they just don't feel as good with a max grip, so they're not able to lift as much as if they just, use the muscles that they've been gifted. You know what I mean? Like, they're genetically just better. Or maybe that's how they've trained their whole life and they're just so far ahead that way that it's not worth it for them, to try something else. Clearly, they don't have, crazy good leverage, right? They're not really gaining much leverage at all. It's arguably one of the hardest ways to lift. But I always say, and I've said this since forever, that adding more muscle to your frame can overcome, to an extent, like any amount of like bad leverage, depending, because you're always going to find a freak. You're going to find someone that's like, this person has terrible leverage for lifting, but they have so much muscle that they're able to lift more than people that have less muscle, and they can just use their technique better, right? So gaining muscle, everybody can do this, right? Every single person can train their body and try to add more muscle. So you always have hope in that sense, right? You always have hope in that sense. You can look at people and go, oh man, like that guy has like crazy long arms. He's got so much better deadlift than me. I'll never be able to lift that much. Well, if you just build the strongest back and glutes ever and legs, and you have super short arms, you're probably gonna cat back, but you can get your deadlift up there. You know what I'm saying? You know, I would say that most, if you take just people on steroids, right? If you take most people on steroids, um, shit, I'll say like I want to know 70 was I don't even know that weight class, like the equivalent of 74 weight kg and up. They're probably gonna get damn close to pulling 700 pounds, on the sauce. You know what I mean? Because they can just put on an astronomical amount of muscle to overcome whatever shitty leverage they have. Not all the time, but a lot of the time that helps. Until you start getting into the bigger weight classes where the guys are so large that it's just they have like they're just so big it's difficult for them to actually pull a big deadlift. So yeah, gaining muscle, everybody can do this. You always have that to fall back on no matter how bad your leverages are. Also, you can always improve your leverage. There's a bunch of different ways to do this. Gaining muscle will not only give you more force production to lift more weight, but it's a bigger like tissue. It's a bigger fibrous material that is taking up space between the two segments, right? Or in the segment. So, like, for example, if you gain a lot of weight, right, you get super fat. For squats, you're going to hold a lot of fat around your belly, and when you squat, it's going to be a lot easier. Why? Because as you go lower into the hole, you start to sort of fold on top of your body and build a shit ton of pressure within your own body, which is going to help you sort of catapult out of the hole. I've also, heard that like you might not necessarily put on body fat like visibly, but you are putting it on like in intramuscularly, so inside of your muscles, and that can help improve your leverage. Um, so that's one way. So that's what I'm saying. You can add more muscle, which is going to help you lift more, but you can also gain more body mass, more body tissue, and just become bigger, like some sort of combination of the two. You're going to lift more weight that way, right? So if you're a super lean person, you have to stay super lean. You got to stay in your weight class, and the only way for you to maintain your weight class is to have six-pack abs, right? It's the only way. You're probably not going to be able to gain as much from that because you can't. You just can't. You simply you can try to put on as much good tissue as you can, by improving your body composition and building as much muscle as you can, but you don't have the luxury of like a super heavyweight that can just gain weight infinitely, you know what I mean, and just get stronger, just lift more weight, lift more weight, lift more weight by simply just becoming a larger human. It's also, there's like some physics involved, like weight moves weight. So if you're a big person and you bump into a small person, you're going to send them flying. You know what I mean? If a small person bumps into a big person, the big person's not going to move. That is a factor at play as well, especially in the squat and the bench. And then also you can improve your leverage just with like better technique. For example, going from a conventional to a sumo sometimes, going from a normal grip to a max grip sometimes. Those things can help you also improve your leverage. So if you're one of those people that you just can't gain weight because you need to stay in your weight class, you can still lift more weight by gaining muscle, right? Getting stronger. If you want to put the two things together, improving your body composition, improving your leverage just with better technique, just becoming more technically proficient over time. For example, if you squat super narrow and you do a taco squat and you have a really long torso and you're like teeter-tottering like really hard, you can have better center of gravity by perhaps, getting out of the heels, widening your stance out a little bit, and, maintaining that weight over midfoot as you move through space. That's probably going to help you use your muscles more evenly, right? You're just going to have more tools at your disposal to help you lift that weight when you're using, I like to think of it as like, if I can bench in a way that allows me to use my shoulders, pecs, and triceps like pretty evenly, if possible. I don't even know if it's possible to be even, but as much as it's going to be, like everybody's doing their part, right? Every section is doing their part, just for conversation's sake. So you want to use a grip that allows you to do that over, I only want to emphasize one. You know what I mean? Like me, for example, if I go too wide, I feel like I'm not using my triceps enough, and I feel like my triceps are pretty decent. So I like to move my grip in just a little bit so they can kind of get involved. So yeah, technique adjustments, we just kind of talked about that. You can lift more weight and make progress by just getting better technique and becoming more refined, and then building muscle through the better, the better stance or the better grip or the better whatever technique adjustments you make. The reason why you want to do so much repetition there and hammer that is because you're gonna build muscle through that good technique, and then it's going to kind of become second nature. And what you'll see is, like, let's say you move to a better stance and better form, you might look a little bit shaky at first, right? But over time, the more you practice that, it's going to get better and better and better and better until it's going to become like you're going to make adaptations that you could not have made in 6 months. Like, it takes a really, really long time. If you just look at years, there's a famous video online somewhere. It shows, like, I think it's like Mike T, and he's squatting like in 2012 and then again in like 2016, and it's like it looks just astronomically different. You know what I mean? Same footing, just building more muscle through that movement. Now getting into some of the short term, this is just one short term. This is no particular order, but some of the short term ways to kind of lift more weight. Let's say you're getting ready for a big squat day or post weigh-in or whatever. If you can bloat, you can improve your leverage because now you're a little bit bigger than you were before, right? Obviously, electrolytes, things like that, having enough carbs in your system, all these things are going to contribute to that. But, like, the meet day bloat is a thing. It is valuable. It can help you tremendously. And if it's not something that you've done, I recommend trying it. Having a Gatorade, maybe half of a packet of Tri-Oral after you weigh in, if you're not cutting weight, it can totally help you. Tremendously. Hold on, I'm going to mute this while I drink this. So, that is something that you can do in the short term to kind of make lifting feel a little bit better. It's like almost artificially making yourself bigger, aside from the benefits you get from electrolytes and carbs and things like that. This one I want to save for the end because it's kind of complicated. Warm up, that has something to do with it as well. If you warm up correctly, for example, I'll just use Russ as an example. The other day, I think he went from like 640 to 705. And if he had taken, 640, maybe 666 or 672, and then gone to 705, 705 would have looked even better than if he would have just made that big jump. You know what I mean? I know for me personally, I'm just starting to get warmed up. Like, when I get like over 600 pounds, I'm getting warmed up. You know what I mean? Now I'm going to go, 585, 635, 675. Oh my God! 700 pounds, and then I'm ready to like hit my max. You know what I mean? It's like I got to go through all those steps to kind of get there. Warm ups kind of self-explanatory. You guys know making sure that your warm ups are on point can definitely help you make some short-term progress. It's gonna and over time, short-term, you keep consistently having good warm-ups. It's gonna lead to better long-term progress because you're just having consistently better workouts as time goes on. Next, I'm gonna talk about mental state, your setting, and placebos. So, what I really want to touch on with this part is like during quarantine, there's one lifter in particular that I'm thinking of. She was in quarantine for a really long time, and it was kind of during the time when we didn't know what was gonna happen, right? We didn't know what was going to happen. It was like, okay, now we're in lockdown, but these meets are still going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen before the mask mandate or whatever. So, like, all right, now we're training for this meet. And then we're getting ready. We're peaking. And then, that meet got canceled. Meets just started to fall off as time went on, right? So we're just, like, postponing, and then now we're going through another prep, and then we're postponing, and now we're going through another prep, and now we're postponing, and now we're going through another prep. And just mentally, not only was it hard on her? But like I had a lot of lifters, including Russ, where it was like, all right, let's go do Sheffield. Okay, now Sheffield, is canceled. Let's go do Tina's meet. All right, now Tina's meet's canceled. Let's go do. I guess we'll just start getting ready for Worlds. All right, now Worlds is canceled. It was like everything just kept getting canceled, but we had to stay in prep the whole time because we didn't know. So mentally, you're worked. You know what I mean? And if you're in your garage training with like bootleg weights and like a shitty bar and an uneven ground, and no friends are there to cheer you on, it's like who wants to do that? You know what I mean? It's not fun. So, I mean, I did it for a whole year. You know what I mean? So that can dramatically affect your mental state. Now, as time goes on, the setting changes. You get back in the gym. You get to see everyone again. You have your homies around you to kind of cheer you on. I cannot tell you guys how fun it was to squat 716 with everybody around me at Zoo, because it was something that I couldn't do for so long just because we were locked down. You know what I mean? It just does something to you. You're able to just like unlock like that final gear of strength that you can't get otherwise. You know what I mean? I don't care what anybody says, man. When you're lifting and there's like 300 people in front of you staring at you, and you have 3 judges in front of you, and you know what it means to make each lift, you're going to lift more weight than if you're just doing it at home. In rare cases, you might not. There's some people that are just incredibly consistent and just super level. They just they don't care about crowds, and they don't react to anything. But most people are going to be very aroused. Their fight or flight response is going to kick in. You kind of have this involuntary response to what's in front of you. So if you see a tiger running at you, you're gonna have a reaction. Your body's gonna go from 0 to 100, and it's gonna give you everything that you need to try to survive in that moment. It's kind of like when I see a big weight on the bar, and my heart rate starts going up, and I start getting mad for no reason. There's no reason for me to be mad. I'm just mad now. It's like my body is just getting angrier, and I'm just getting fired up just looking at it, because it's like this weight could kill me. This weight could smash me. You know what I mean? So I need to meet the threat. I need to rise to the occasion. And that doesn't happen when I'm training in my garage and I know I can't go over 650, 660 because, I'm training on an uneven ground. Nothing feels good. I'm not going to compromise Tina by saying, yeah, hey, come spot me. You know what I mean? It's just not fair. So I'm just not even going to try it. So setting in your mental state is another way. It's going to make a huge difference. Like if you're lifting in a bad mental state versus a good mental state, not only like does that have to do with your setting. Thank you so much for the follow. But that has to do with, like what if you're stressed out? Like I know that if I go into the gym, but I am so stressed about something that I have to do, it kills my workout. It makes me not even want to do my workout. I work best when I go into the gym, and the training is the number one priority for my day, as opposed to like all these other things I have going on at home. So that's me personally, but I'm sure you guys can relate. But all these things that I'm talking about today, you have to take into consideration. Mainly when you're having those bad days and those down days, you need to go through, go through this checklist and kind of look at like, is my technique good? Am I gaining weight over time? Like what? We're talking about stocks a lot on my Instagram, but if you zoom out and you look at the big picture, I was just telling someone today, I said, hey, the weight that you lifted today on a bad day was a dream 3 months ago. You dream about doing that. You know what I mean? And now it's a reality. But because we're living in the moment, we don't even like realize where we came from. We just have short-term memories. We forget, everything that we were going through a month ago. So, I have placebos in here. Placebos, I strongly believe that if you believe in something, if you believe in a program, if you believe in a coach, if you believe in a team, if you believe in some source of motivation, you believe in yourself, you believe in whatever, it's not like something you can touch. But because you have that belief, it gives you this confidence to navigate the situation in a way that's going to allow you to be very successful. This doesn't only apply to lifting. Lifting, confidence is involved in lifting, but confidence is also involved in any type of competition, dealing with certain humans, right? Dealing with people. If you have a lot of confidence going into a certain situation, you're more likely to probably be successful, as long as it's not super arrogant or anything like that. But confidence is super important, and a lot of it is like it might not actually fit like really be helping. Like if you do a certain weird thing before your warm up that doesn't really like there's no science or nothing that says this helps you, but you believe that it helps you. If you put on a flex shirt and it makes you feel a certain way, which I should actually pull this up. I'll do it for stream after, but if you put on a flex shirt and it makes you feel a certain way, right? Someone told this to me today, one of my CPU boys. It could give you a better effect that day than had you just worn whatever, right? If you wear, it doesn't even have to be that. It could be anything, and it could be whatever shirt that you like. You know what I mean? I believe placebo is really, really strong, and if you can learn to manipulate this in a way that's beneficial for your lifting, it's gonna help, especially on the platform. Another thing that can help you lift more weight is training consistently on good equipment. So if you train on kilos with an Eleiko bar and an Eleiko rack all the time, you're going to have very consistent training. But then maybe you go to one of the homies' gyms or whatever, and he's pulling on a Texas power bar with pounds, and you lift more weight. Now, did you get stronger or did you lift more weight, right? Weight is weight. I agree with that. Maybe our lockout is the same. But there's definitely a difference between the two, and as long as in my opinion, I think that as long as you're aware of the differences, it doesn't really matter what you lift on. As long as you're preparing for meet day, you kind of know like, all right, for meet day, like I've been lifting on pounds the whole time, so I should probably be a little bit conservative, or I know that pounds are harder for me to lift on because of the way that I pull. So on kilos, I'll lift even more. Oh my God, you kind of have to go through that to learn on your own. Thank you so much for the follow. Because everybody's different. Everybody has different preferences and things like that. Some people actually suck on a deadlift bar, believe it or not. They're just not good at it. They can blow the weights off the ground, then they get stuck on their legs. The bar starts whipping around, and then they fail. Whereas in Eleiko, they don't get off the ground as fast, but they're more consistent with their lockout. So this is another thing that can lead to long-term progress. This can also lead to long-term progress. It's something in the short term, you deal with it every day, but long-term it can help. And then the last thing I want to talk about is kind of a put better response, but like you can have two blocks that are mirrored, like very similar. The sets and reps and RPEs are very similar. But the result of the two can be very different based on, like, assuming everything else is the same, strictly based on how long, how do I say this? If you're doing sets of 8 for 5 weeks, after 5 weeks, it's gonna get kind of stale, and you're probably not gonna be making any more progress. You're probably gonna be pretty fucking beat up, so you're probably gonna have to make some changes. If I wanted to, with the lifter, give me 2-3 weeks, we get back to sets of 8, and they would make progress again. Why is this? Because the way that we use singles and the way that we use RPE and the way that we use deloads, we can kind of take those sets of 8 to build our foundation, and then pull back a little bit, right? Let your body kind of recover, lose some of the adaptations you made to the sets of 8, but you want to maintain strength. That strength is what we care about above all else. And then let's say you want to go back into sets of 8. Maybe they have some sort of ailment. They can't go heavy, whatever. By and resensitizing from certain amounts of stress, this can work with bodybuilding accessories. This can work with powerlifting stuff. This can work with all kinds of things, right? You're able to kind of maintain your strength and run blocks that are kind of similar. Like, my RPE, 7 squat single now is very different from my RPE squat single 4 years ago. But my training for the last 5 years for me, aside from like auxiliary movements and just being better with like where I put things, is very similar. Like just like I'm gonna tell you guys, with bench I like sets of 8, 6, and 4. Sometimes I like sets of 9, 6, and 4, 9, 6, and 5, something like that. Like I do weird stuff, but it's all very, very similar. And by desensitizing a little bit, you can reintroduce something that you've done before, but you kind of confuse your body so that you get a better response from it. Now, going back to what I talked about in the very beginning, if you're a super if you have to maintain your weight class and you're dieting, right? You're probably you want this, right? Get D and resensitizing is going to be useful. You want to have good warm-ups. All these things right here in the bottom are going to play a role. You might not have this, right? You might not be able to bloat as much. You probably can't have enough sodium. I mean, sodium hydration is one thing, but you probably can't have enough carbs because you got to maintain your weight, right? So you got to understand you're working with less. You have less tools to lift more weight, right? That doesn't mean you're not putting on muscle. You just can't lift as much weight because you're being held back by your weight class, right? Technique adjustments, you can benefit from this. You're not going to be able to improve your leverage as much by simply getting bigger because you can't. You literally can't. You have to maintain your weight. So I think when you get like later on in your career, and as I'm going through this, I'm thinking about even more ways that you can get stronger or lift more weights, right? You're going to lose some of these tools because you just simply don't have access to them the same way that you did, right? You can still make great progress with a lot of these things. I mean, there's so much I left off, like just better decision making, just recovery habits outside the gym, just so many things like that. But the main takeaway that I want you guys to take away from this video is that there's a lot of different ways and a lot of different factors to help you make progress, and you're going to have access to some of them. Like if you have stupidly good technique, your technique is damn near perfect, right? For you personally, because technique is very individual. Then you might not have as much room to grow there, and that's something that you kind of got to understand. You know what I mean? So I think when people understand that like making progress involves so many different things, mentally, physically, inside the gym, outside the gym, all that, if you understand that, then it's going to help you feel a lot better when like maybe you're not making as much progress as you want to, but you're looking at somebody else that is, right? Like for example, when Weez a little while back was just every week was PR, 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 or Isaac PR, 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 or Keiko PR, 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 whatever. Jesus just constantly going. But I have a guy who's dieting crazy, and he looks crazy, looks like a bodybuilder. This guy looks nuts, right? But he can't gain more weight like them. He's not in a caloric surplus. He doesn't have the ability to do the things that they're doing. Maybe he works a really strenuous job, whatever. You know, you got to understand that and say, hey, you know what? I got a lot going on outside the gym. I'm doing the best that I can. I'm losing weight. I'm maintaining my light body weight for my competition. I'm really happy with the progress that I'm making. It's not crazy like it was before when I was moving up a weight class, but it's pretty damn good, and I'm happy. And at the end of the day, we're just setting reasonable expectations, right? You got to know what tools you have in front of you. And you know you got to kind of like judge your progress based on that. I know this is kind of like a very general type of video. I hope you guys are able to take something away from it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Like I said earlier before I started, I said I did a Q&A, or just like what do you guys want to talk about, and everybody said something about programming. So I kind of just like made it into like a general progress moving forward, getting stronger type of deal. And I hope I'm speaking to a lot of people, so I gotta just kind of be very general about it, try to hit all the points. So anyway, if you guys are able to take something away from this video, please let me know. Let me go hashtag. What are we gonna do? Hashtag. Thanks for the keys in the comments down below, and then to those of you that commented on the last video to let me know how long you've been subscribed or been watching, I really appreciate it. If you made it this far, we're so close to 10,000 subscribers. If you could just like go ahead and do that, that'd be nice. That'd be cool. Just a little milestone just for the mentals. But I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna keep going. I'm just gonna keep cranking out videos. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.